If there was such a thing as a perfect IEM, there'd only be one. Because perfection is a moving target, there's going to be all kinds of products out there.
Welcome back to the Director's Garage. I am your resident idiot, Michael. And today, as I just hinted, this is going to be a big episode. So grab yourself a beer. We're going to be at this a while.
Oh, man!
But I think, and at least I hope, you're going to enjoy it. Now, I just geeked out. This episode started out life as a simple sound check of the Noble Audio Sultan. And we'll get to that too, I promise. But today we're flipping the script a little bit, and we're doing something a little different. I have my first ever guest interview on this show, and I think you may have heard of him. Now, first, I've got to give a huge shout out to Audio 46 for sending me the Noble Audio Sultan. Honestly, I thought we're going to get like a $300 headphone. You know, something small. I was just starting out. You know, they figured they'd send me something that's kind of like, okay, let's just see what this guy does with our stuff, you know? No, they send a Titan in the mail. Talk about your live action, you know? Audio 46 is they're your personal audio superstore. I've been shopping there for years. I've got a huge mega dollar headphone over there that we are so far behind. I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up. I bought my Odin there. I can get lost in their website for just hours. They sell everything you might ever want, from Woo to Stax to Campfire. Check those guys out. They are great, and more important, they stand by what they sell. Anytime I've had a problem, I call there. They're like, they bend over backwards to do you right. So, and that includes, you can buy these there, the Noble Audio Sultan. And today, we're going to dig deep into this headphone, which made quite an impression on me in that What's in the Box episode. Now, if you were reading the comments on the What's in the Box video below for the Noble, you'd have noticed there was a quick exchange down there. You know you're supposed to like comment, right? That's and like and subscribe. Anyway. Shameless.
Wise guy, eh?
You'd have noticed down there, though, I had a quick exchange with a guy named John Moulton. Now, that name rang a bell with me, and I kind of know that the name of the guy who founded Noble Audio is named John Moulton. But you never know who you're getting on the internet. So we started exchanging messages, and one thing led to another, and the next thing you know, sure enough, it's the same guy, and I'm on the phone with him at 3 a.m. Now, I'm in Los Angeles, and it turns out that John lives in Thailand. which interestingly enough, that's where the story of Noble Audio starts. Now, John is an audiologist by trade, and in the mid-2000s, he was building and training staff at a Thai company that makes hearing aids. And at this point, a few things happened. First, there was an unfortunate accident.
My wife had a Bluetooth in her ear. She dropped it on the ground, and I stepped on it on accident. And I thought, well, I'll just make a housing and stick it all in there, and that's what I did.
But one of the things that struck John was how unappealing headphones and IEMs were at that time. So he started playing around with materials, and around that time he bought like a $99 pair of headphones that were uncomfortable, and he had the idea, well, I'm building these list hearing devices, these hearing aids, so I can reshell it. So he takes it apart, and what he found surprised him.
So I opened it up, and when I saw what was in it, it was just a single BA. And when I saw what was in it, and I knew I paid $100 for it, and I said, that's it? That was my response, was, that's it? And then I thought, I can do better than that.
And he did do better. And in fact, he started practicing and experimenting, building IEMs. But the aesthetics were just as important to him as the sound and the fit. Before John, CIEMs looked like hugely different. He was really the first guy to consider the look and the build quality as much as he was the sound of what he was building.
At the time I was doing this, the only people involved at that time was Ultimate Ears, and UM at that time was just doing reshells. meaning that they would take an IEM, an existing IEM, and put it into a CIM housing. That's what was going on with Nobody was using art at that time. It was pretty much beige skin tone.
Right.
They looked like, honestly, it looked like dried bubble gum. And I just thought, if I brought home something that looked like that, I told my wife it cost $1,300, she would kick me out of the house. So I wanted to look like a piece of art, and I wanted to look as good as sound, or sound as good as it looked, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So what I would do is go to the night market, and I would buy some nice looking wooden spoons, like salad spoons. And I'd also buy jewelry boxes, and I would pull them apart. And they were made out of like padauk or cherry wood. Some of them made out of it's called Siam burl wood. Anyways, so I'd pull it apart and cut a little piece out of it and shave it down, and then use that as the faceplate. Well, and I was the first guy to actually do that.
So let's just take a second to consider that. When's the last time you heard of an owner or a founder of a company actually doing the work on the product? I can't. Can you imagine like Elon Musk welding the floorboard on a Tesla Model X, or Tim Cook soldering up the circuit board on a MacBook Pro or something? So that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy cool, right?
I would take photos of what I would build and put it on HeadFi. People would say to me that, comment that if I ever go commercial, they want me to build for them, these kinds of things. And again, I was doing that because I planned on going commercial. So basically I was seeding the ground for going commercial.
But the thing is, John, like even today, John continues to do work. He actually builds these headphones out of his own personal workshop. Anything that's from Noble that's not CNC or 3D printed, it comes from John's workshop in Thailand.
And we're still pushing the boundaries on that. Right now we're working with a jewelry company that does nice faceplates for our Sultan line.
Yeah, they're beautiful, and I
Damascus.
want to ask you a little bit about the Sultan, if it's okay with you.
Sure.
I was wowed by this headphone. I mean, it just blew me. I mean, I hope that came across in the video.
It seemed awfully excited.
How did that come to be? How did you come to that headphone?
I like to run things very Spartan. In other words, I think it's a challenge to make the best sound out of little amount of drivers possible. I think that's really the challenge. It's almost like trying to make the fastest 4-cylinder or 3-cylinder out there, right?
Because you run into timing, right? You run into timing issues the more drivers you add, right?
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, that is. And it's also very difficult because if you have a flawed product or a driver that's not behaving, it's very difficult to figure out which one it is.
Oh, so God, I can imagine.
I like to work with low driver counts, but flip side is it's also a challenge to take different types of technologies and mount them together and make sure they work well together, coherently, if I may use that term. Most people are interested in something that's 3 levels of tech or 4 levels of tech and this type and the other. It just piques their interest. And so the Sultan was, not out of the Spartan playbook. It was out of the playbook of let's take 3 or 4 different types of tech and put it together and see what we can get.
Now, I wish I could just stop the story right here and tell you that John went commercial, sold tens of thousands of K10s, and he got rich, and everybody lived like happily ever after. But the thing is, when you're doing something that no one else is attempting, and nobody else was doing what he was doing back then, you run into some problems. You might have like a business partner steal your idea. You might run into some funding issues, or you may just have like life hit you in the back of the head a few times and knock you down. When you're really on the frontier of what's new, you find out that the road to success is never made of marble. It's usually more like 3 yards in a pile of dust.
Back when I was trying to get into it, you had to place a $200,000 order with Knowles.
Oh, God.
For speakers, for drivers. Yeah. To get involved. And so I'd been practicing, and we were using hearing aid drivers at the time. And a Knowles representative came to visit the office. They just responded and said, I need a $200,000 order. I said, I don't have that kind of money. And he just laughed and he said, well, I'll make it happen. He kept feeding me drivers to practice with and play with and develop a product line with. We're a small company doing big things. It's kind of crazy. We've survived. The roof got blown off 3 times, and rained on 3 times. We've gone through earthquakes as well.
When you have a passion for something, you try different things and you fail, and then you try again. I do it on this show every single episode. I'll try and do a graphic in a different way, or I'll try pushing what I know how to do to make something look a little different, or make something look cooler. And a lot of times it just, I get halfway through it and I just scrap the whole thing and go, this is taking too long. And I just, give up. I'm sorry. And there's a lot of stuff that you'll never see because it was so bad, but it was tried. I just tried it. And then sometimes I'll hear a sound effect and it'll make me think of something. I'm like, oh, I could put a visual with this and it would look really cool. And every once in a while, those two things come together and you wind up making something that's greater than the sum of the parts, and it goes further than you ever thought it could.
I did have that sensation when I built what we called the N4, or the Savannah, if you will. As soon as I had wired that up, I thought, that's a winner. And I did that probably about 11 o'clock at night. And I remember driving home thinking, that was amazing. And I'll tell you what it's like for me. I'm not saying it's like this for everybody. For me, it's like spinning the lock combination on a lock, right?
Yeah.
And when you finally spin it and it unlocks, it's that eureka moment, but it is very difficult getting it just right. And when it finally is there, it's like, man, that's a good one.
And John has unlocked a great one in the Noble Sultan. And we'll have more from John in just a second, but I want to talk about the Sultan for a bit and work in some of the sound check now. And I'll tell you about some of the things that really impressed me about this headphone. And I'm going to start off with the imaging. It was just spot on for me. It was as good as anything I've heard in an IEM. Everything was specific and it was sorted, and you had a sense of where every instrument was coming directly at from that point in space. It was very fast. And I was listening to the Allman Brothers Midnight Rider, and there's this great harmony that sits right at 12 o'clock, and it's gorgeous. Now they say that was an effect that was created by the reverb, and I tend to there are cues that just make me suspicious of that claim. I honestly think it was 2-voice anyway, but you hear a moment near the end of the song where Greg starts riffing, and as he's riffing, just as he riffs, the shift in his location comes from 12 o'clock and it moves just slightly to 11:30, and that's the kind of detail change that is so brilliant. It's something I'd never heard before on a head, in that song anyway. And this headphone was able to pull that slight shift in imaging where the voice just shifted. There's a great story behind that song that I'll tell another time. And Soundstage is pretty much the same story. You get this 3D layered sense of that, few IEMs really do that well. And it's like there's not just a guitar on this side, there's like a guitar with a horn behind it. You can tell that distance. You hear the space all around, and it really impressed me. I thought they really did a great job on it. I gotta say a quick thing about power in the Sultan, because they drive well off of pretty much anything. However, I found that they really came alive. They went next level when I was able to drive them with something with a little more juice. So for that, I actually swapped out the cable, the stock cable, which is a nice cable. It's a beautiful Octa cable, copper, but I swapped it out for this, the Leonidas 2 Octa by Effect Audio. It's gorgeous palladium coated silver cable. It's just like jewelry. I would make this into a necklace if I could, or wear it around my wrist, like, it's like Wonder Woman's magic lasso kind of thing. It's just beautiful. But it allowed me to go with the 2.5 connector, which could play better with the N8 and with the SP1000 balanced cable. So I did want to do that, and that's the reason that I'm sporting this little blingy cable here. Let's take a second and talk about the tuning of this IEM, because I got to be careful when I'm giving these reviews, because I know it sounds like I'm raving, but the biggest problem I have is that this headphone sounds really, really good on the music that I really, really love. And I admit that's going to color this review a bit. The short list of music that impressed me: Zeppelin, AC/DC, Echo and the Bunnymen, The Pretenders, Hendrix, Queen, the Fratellis. I love the Fratellis. I know I'm like in the minority, but I love the Fratellis. Grateful Dead, Beatles, Otis Redding, Stevie Ray Vaughan. I listened to the best sounding version of Couldn't Stand the Weather I've ever heard. The bass just digs so frackin' deep. And I should state, neutrality and reference aren't anywhere to be found in this headphone. If you're looking for that linear, accurate sound, it ain't this. This is a fun tuning with bass to spare. There is nothing linear about this headphone. It is a big, deep, robust bass. It is bass head territory, maybe bass head light territory, I don't know, but it's full, and it doesn't dominate, but there is so much. What I think what it is it's the mid bass. The section right above the sub bass has great presence, and it produces this sense of realism, to me anyway, that made it sound like loudspeakers. And I said that last episode, and maybe that's a little bit exaggerated, but I believe that effect is there because the mid bass has a little more presence to it. It creates this like visceral connection to the music. You feel it. It's robust. It gives you buckets of slam. And I never got fatigued by any of it. What was the goal of the sound? Like, did you have a target tuning you were going for with it? Did you say, I want to do a fun headphone that I enjoy?
If it's going to be kind of centered around fun, I'm not thinking, high school kid,
no,
bass pounding in the back of the car fun. What I'm thinking of is a home theater system fun. So you can sit down and watch a Star Wars movie and that good bass rumble or something and some great highs, that type of fun. That's what I consider to be fun.
By fun, I always think of enjoyable. It's something that's really enjoyable to put in and put on one of your favorite albums, and you get this experience, as opposed to it's going to pick apart every part of every frequency and give you something very flat and neutral.
When we're talking IEMs, if you were to graph something and make it extremely flat, which is essentially the goal for loudspeakers, home audio. And if you're trying for flat, if you think that that's going to convert in the same principle to an IEM, from an audiologist standpoint, that's not accurate at all. The reason for that is when you occlude the ear and actually insert something into it, you're changing the whole resonance of the ear canal. It's all different now. And because of that, it's almost like trying to make a perfume that a lot of people will like, because you just can't use one standard anymore. You can't just say, flat, and then we're good. And, and I know a lot of IEM manufacturers are doing that. They try their best to make it flat and you know, brag about how flat it is. And the reality is, if you're looking at it from an audiology standpoint, it doesn't make any sense.
And what John just talked about, what he just touched on, is exactly what it is I love about the Sultan. It's a home theater experience. It's like great loudspeakers in a room. The music is presented in a big, big way. It's an experience. It keeps giving. And it's not just the bass. The treble is refined, especially for an E-stat driver. I've heard E-stats go horribly bright in a hurry. And the Noble tuning, they've really reined it in a lot. And that's saying something for an E-stat. And it still retains the detail and that sparkle on the top end. And it's fast as hell. But it's the balance. I'm just finding that balance is just perfect across the entire frequency spectrum. And then the other thing is it never pushes harsh. I never heard harshness on this headphone.
Are you as impressed with like you hear a headphone like that? Did that impress you as much as it did me? I mean, I put it on my head and I'm like, I just hit that first song and I'm like, this is just gorgeous. It's got bass and detail, and there was just a special sound.
Yeah, it's kind of like making a good soup or something like that, when you know what you did to make it happen, and you're more impressed with the fact that it did happen. Sorry to say it that way, but
it's awesome. No, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stuff right now I'm working on, but when I listen to it and I know what I did to make it happen, it's like, holy cow. That's the shocker, is I know what I did to make it happen, but the actual result is more surprising. It's like, I'm surprised it's that good.
And I love talking about music that sounds good. And today I'm going to talk about the Talking Heads. I'm going to talk about Once in a Lifetime off Remain in Light. Now, first, you've got toms, and they're locked in toms. And if you have the right mix, the toms are locked in at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Now, there are versions out there where the mastering engineer center panned those toms for some reason and wrecked the song. But if you have the one that's true, faithful to the original record, at 10 and 2, you have these toms that are syncopated. They're going boom, boom, boom. And they create this framework for explosions in sound that just go fabulous on the Sultan. It's just an experience. And I also flipped on over to Little Creatures while I was on this Talking Heads jam thing. And a few folks like this record for some reason. I don't know. I love this record. But The Lady Don't Mind. It's got everything in it. It's got horns. It's got synths. It's got popping percussions. It's a spectacular listen on the Sultan. And I just decided, because I'm running out of time on this episode, it's running way long, they're going to be our featured artists today. Talking Heads are our featured artists today. And I'm going to talk about a couple more tracks. First, Slippery People off Speaking in Tongues. I love the ride of this song. Tina Weymouth owns this one. It's a lot like her Spartan Tom Tom Club recordings. Very cool. Love this one. And I'm going to finish with one other Weymouth bass line, Take Me to the River. One of my very favorite tracks also of all times. It happens to be done by the Talking Heads. So much open space on the Sultan. I mean, the keyboard has got this echoing tone that's just drops of water. Deep soundstage, totally accentuated on this song. The Sultan just does it right. So, do I recommend these headphones? Well, they're $3,000. That's a tough sell. I got it, I'm just going to say that up front. But there are very few IEMs I've heard that compete with the Sultan. There are a few IEMs that will give you maybe advantages in certain areas, say detail retrieval or something, or mid-range clarity or something. But as an overall experience, I don't know of many IEMs that are going to compete with this. If you're into perfect linear sound, that's not this headphone. The Sultan has that sort of Tia Forte thing going on, where it's like, it's a presentation, it's a spectacle. And it does it so much better than the Forte or any other IEM I've heard so far. And I certainly want a pair of these. There's no getting around that. I want a pair of these. And maybe I can get John to build me one of those wizard specials because they're so cool. Tell me about the wizard nickname. How did that come about?
Oh, that's again, that comes back to Head 5. Somebody was accusing me of working for a manufacturer. Yeah. And somebody posted after that accusation, the guy said, no, this is, my handle's Full Circle. And he says, no, Full Circle's been practicing his wizardry for a long time now. And so when he used the word wizard, I thought, well, I'll just run with it.
Now, I want to take a second and just thank John for giving me a bunch of his time, and so enjoyable to talk to. He is a true legend and a visionary. The IEMs we enjoy today would look and sound very different if it wasn't for the vision and the knowledge and the skills of guys like John Moulton. He is an impressive guy to spend time with. If you ever get a chance, take him up on it. He's really interesting to talk to. I was honored that he was willing to sit back with a fool like me who churns out the YouTubes. Now, if you were impressed even just a little bit by this one, I worked really hard on it. Maybe it sucked. I hope not. Maybe consider throwing me a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. It's those likes and subscribes that give me the encouragement to push the envelope around here, try different things. That and I get really bored. It's true. I'd appreciate it nonetheless. And then one other thing, I've got to thank Audio 46 again. The guys killed it. I already have 2 more Audio 46 unboxings ready to go. I just got to find the time. I'm behind on a lot of stuff around here, and I'm trying to sort through it. We're going to get through it. Next episode, I have another unboxing. It's a viewer headphone. This poor guy, he sent me his headphone before Christmas, and it took like weeks to get here, and then it gets here, and I can't run with it right away because I've got all this other stuff before it. But we're going to do the sound check and the what's in the box in one episode. And then we're going to go to a heavyweight bout between these here Sultans and the Empire Ear Odin, which is my current champion, my current overall hot category in-ear monitor champion. Because one of them, only one of them, is going to wind up with a space back here in the director's garage. Now, I want to thank you for enduring this long episode. I know it was a long one. I hope it was worth it though to meet a guy like John Moulton, even if it was just on the phone. He lives in the middle of rice paddies in Thailand. I'm not kidding. Check out the amazing place this guy gets to build these insane creations in the middle of. It's awesome. So cool. What an interesting guy. It's like Colonel Kurtz without the crazy, or sacrificial cows hacking things. I kept him on the phone for 90 minutes asking him dumbass questions, and he had the patience to answer every single one of them. So take care, everyone, and I will see you before you know it.